All right, we are live for a very, very special episode of the Axie on the Moon channel. We've got Jiho, the one and only, with us, and I'm feeling feelings right now. Like, I don't know what they are, if it's excitement or nerves or what, but there is so much happening that I'm trying to, like, contain. Welcome to the channel, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm a huge fan of your content. It's been blowing up recently. Well deserved.
Well, thank you very, very much. I appreciate that coming from you. In case anyone's living under a rock, Jiho is co-founder and growth lead of Axie Infinity, okay? I have some fun things to begin this with. There is so much to cover. I want to start off with the very first conversation I ever had with you. This must have been probably 4 months ago. And you told me at the time that I believe we were probably 30,000 daily active users, something like that. And you told me you thought that we could hit 250,000 by the end of the year when I asked you where you saw this thing going in the midterm. So, what do you make of where we're sitting currently, having smashed that out of the park with months left to go on the year and already passing 1 million daily active users? What are your thoughts and feelings around that milestone?
It's been amazing to see the community really step up to the plate to grow, to onboard their friends and family. Something really special is happening. I think, yeah, we might be a little bit ahead of schedule. We're outperforming how I kind of would have even dreamed of. So yeah, I think really it's because of the community, because this nation has gotten so energized, and yeah, Axie is even more powerful than we ever even dreamed of in our kind of wildest predictions. So it's been amazing. Obviously, it's not all good. Growth, parabolic growth, comes with a whole host of new challenges, but we're facing them together.
Absolutely. And I think you guys have done a great job. Of course, there's been some bumps in the road, but that's to be expected with this new breakthrough of technology, this new style of game, which is so revolutionary in all of the ways. That brings me to my next point here of how you guys process this, because you said this is surpassing our wildest dreams in a sense, right? Now that might be around the time frame, but I want to flash back. So you've been part of Sky Mavis since 2018, 3.5 years ago. And when did you see this happening, right? Like, when did it click for you, I guess, that you said, okay, I'm now part of this game, I'm gonna go for this, see how it works out? And what was the moment where you thought, no, mass adoption really could happen, it's just a matter of time? Do you remember that moment?
Mm. Well, so within a month and a half of discovering Axie, I had like, basically committed my entire life to it. I gave my dog away to my parents, moved to Vietnam, something I'd only been once before, and kind of, yeah, just so we all dove headfirst into it. I think that's part of what makes Axie special is that it's really amazing mission to work on, and yeah, so it just has a way of captivating you and consuming you, and uh, yeah, I think it was quite early on. We noticed that, right, the art was really special. We believed that NFTs would definitely change the way that games were being played, and we saw that you know people were really passionate about it. So it was like, okay, we know that if there's a core small group of people who are really passionate about it, like can we spread this feeling, this passion to the rest of the world? We felt like we could, and right, like we've been building for 3.5 years. We always saw, right, the next step, right? We always saw like encouraging signs that we were getting closer. Uh, so yeah, it's been amazing to kind of go on this journey with the community.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. Very similar to me when I got involved. It was pretty immediate. I shortly quit playing poker, which is what I was doing full time, just to commit to Axie. So yeah, it definitely has that effect on people, no doubt. And it's almost like wildfire now, the way it is catching and captivating people. Um, I was wondering if the core team, since we don't really get to know exactly what Trung thinks or says, or what Alexander thinks or says, what is it between you guys, if you don't mind me asking, when this is happening? Is it a wow, almost euphoric feeling? I'm assuming it's a bit more of a calm. This is what we saw eventually happening, right? But when you explode into 500,000 and 1 million, what are the reactions of someone like Trung?
I mean, Trung is very understated. He never really shows that he's kind of too happy or excited about anything.
Right.
It's good. He's very level-headed. I think like everyone on the team, I mean, I guess, we still have so much work. So, as the scale of our mission increases, right, we just feel more solemn responsibility for the rest of the community. So it's, I don't know, like we never celebrate or we don't, we might say, hey, like this is interesting. Like we're the number one. We hit 1 million users. That's interesting, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. We don't. Maybe it's also that we're all, we haven't seen each other in 2 years now, basically, face to face in many ways. So. When we talk, it's kind of just it's all business for the most part. So yeah, I mean, I think we're excited, but we also see that we have a huge opportunity to do something special. So
for sure, solemn responsibility is a very interesting way to word that. I must say, powerful way to word it. Awesome. Thanks for giving that insight there. And I figured what we could do now is jump into the roadmap before we get into all of the emerging news that has come out today. So if I'm taking a look at the roadmap here, we've hit some massive milestones. We had Ronin. Everything is migrated to Ronin successfully at this point, which is a huge accomplishment. The Origin Alpha, that's around V2, kind of the beginnings of V2. Next up, it looks like we have AXS staking. Then we have a land gameplay community alpha. Late 2021, we have the mainstream release of Axie Infinity on iOS and Android. So, I want to ask about that. Mainstream release of Axie Infinity on iOS and Android. What game is getting released? Is it the game as we know it, or is the mainstream game V2, which is something we know is being worked on and not totally different, but quite different?
The plan is to release Origin on app stores, because that's people can just start playing, fall in love with the universe, the community, the gameplay, and then join our community. But yeah, to be honest, like when we made that, we thought that we might need the app stores, right? But the thing is, right, like we've shown that we can be our own distribution channel as well. So, in my opinion, like that's not that important. The fact that it's on iOS or the Google Play Store, have like really restrictive policies and are kind of crypto unfriendly as well. So that's also something that needs to be thought of.
So do you mind if I ask what the official game release though, like, is that, let me put it this way. What do you see being the limitations of V1?
I think, well, so maybe let's just talk about like, okay, what do we think V2 will do, right? So V2 will be a massive upgrade in terms of the art and the animation. And we think the gameplay will be faster, more skill-based. And yeah, there will be more design space for things like upgrading Axies, upgrading cards, etc. So.
Okay, that's a pretty close to the chest answer, so I'll leave it there. I guess we'll have to just kind of wait and see for the details. Let's get to the break.
So I think also just to clarify, right? I think like one of the things that you're getting at is, right, like will V1 be shelved totally when we release V2? Right? And the answer is not immediately, and we're gonna run them concurrently for at least a little bit, and then we'll assess.
Okay, well that's massive news. V1, V2 being run concurrently, kind of a big deal because, you know, not gonna lie, there's V1 heads out here who has fallen in love with this version of the game. We all know it's not perfect, but some people who get concerned, what's gonna happen to the game that I'm really invested in, that I really love. So for anyone wondering about that or wondering about their Axies, it sounds like V1's here for going to be here for a little while if they're planning on releasing them and having them run together. So that answers that. Thank you. PvP. Let's get into the news. There is a lot that has happened today. First of all, Season 18 is here for everyone to be excited about, and bigger than ever. Let's go ahead and touch on those details real quick. So we're having the largest prize pool, over 200,000 USD worth of Axis, which is insane. 50% longer than the previous season. I think that makes sense considering how much is at stake. It's really allowing everyone to give it everything they have to earn that piece of the pie. And we've adjusted the SLP earning mechanics by having the SLP cap for adventure mode to 50 SLP and having the daily quest completion bonus to 25. And making SLP rewards for PvP scale faster at higher ratings. So that is massive news. I am super stoked on it, being a PvP guy, and really, you know, that's where my entire focus has been. I'll be honest, I never completed a adventure circuit. I just couldn't. It's not what I wanted to do. And I love this idea of people earning what the effort they're putting into actually getting really good at this highly strategic and complex game. So I'm happy to read that. I'm sure some people are not happy to read it. But it seemed like a necessary move, especially with ongoing multi-account issues. I think there's been some botting issues because essentially anyone can farm a PvE adventure and perhaps even find ways of doing it find ways of doing it on multiple devices and so on and so forth, where PvP, you really need to put your mind to it to be earning the SLP. So I believe that's the biggest catalyst, one of the biggest catalysts behind that. Is there anything you want to elaborate on with this massive announcement?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Sky Mavis, we always think about the long-term sustainability of the ecosystem when we make these kinds of moves, and so recently, right, the amount of SLP relative to that was being earned through the game relative to how much was being burned, breeding was getting out of whack. There was too much minting and not enough burning, and a lot of that was because of bots or just farming PvE. So if you look at the videos, they're all doing PvE. It's very difficult to make a bot, maybe impossible to make a bot that can compete against a real human in PvP. PvE, when you do adventure mode was made as a way for people to learn like how the cards work. It wasn't meant to be like an end game thing that everybody, right, like just stays and hides in adventure mode, right? Because when the value is created when you are playing against another person, and right, like when two people who are at a similar skill level match up against each other, right, and have fun by competing, this is what creates value and engagement within the ecosystem. A lot of noobs, they're afraid to play PvP because, right, they go in and they get wrecked, right? But that was because of the old system where all of the noobs were staying in adventure mode, so if they actually went to PvP, right, they're often matching up against people who are really good at PvP. Now all the noobs, all the people who are not good at PvP will be more incentivized to join the PvP queue, so they're going to be matching up against each other, and it's going to be more fair for them, and they'll have a better chance of actually winning the match because of the way the system is now structured. A lot of people, if there's no reason, right, like the reason that people didn't like PvP some didn't like PvP, it's because they would just go in and get smashed really easily. That's because there weren't enough casual or noobs queuing in the system. So by redirecting a lot of those people from adventure mode into PvP, it's actually going to make PvP more fun for the new trainers. So this is, I think, is a really key point that needs to be hammered in. And yeah, so far, 70% of the community really is hugely supportive of the changes. I think that's like basically the best we can hope for. I know a lot of the scholars, especially the scholars who entered scholarship programs that didn't give them good PvP Axies, they're a little bit upset. But this is also what will drive scholarship wages higher, right? By making it so that, right, when scholars, they're limited, where it's like, okay, every scholar can just earn 150 to 200 SLP, right? It's just a given. It's like guaranteed by farming adventure mode. There's no competition among the scholarship programs to provide a better experience, a better wage by paying more and giving better equipment, right? So this was actually causing a lot of mistreatment of scholars because there wasn't actually any skilled labor that they were performing. In the real world, why does your employer like treat you well? Why do they pay you more? It's when you're actually doing complex work. And so, right, this idea of scholars needing to train and be good at PvP and then being able to secure a good scholarship team from a good scholarship that pays a good rate, this will all happen through the new system.
Those are some amazing points. And I just got notified that we had a pretty big F that the stream was unlisted. So it was only people that had the link could join. We still got up to like 645 people just from that, but I just went public, so we're going to get a big influx of people here. Luckily, we've only been live for 16 minutes. Thanks to JH for pointing that out. And we are now public. That should be moving up quite fast here. And Jiho, yeah, so those were some incredible points. I mean, look, for the ecosystem, for everything, for healthy competition and growth and interest in the game, it's all positive, right? If you want to earn more money, the game needs to grow. The game needs to become better, not just be stagnant and a freebie and a handout where people are getting gypped also by scholarship programs that can say, here, I'm going to take all this money from you because I know you're going to get this amount no matter what, okay? So it's a healthy thing, as Jiho said, which is why we're all hyped for it. So thank you for covering that. I'm glad I avoided a massive F there by by not leaving that on for too long. So back to that. So I was just going to follow up. I mean, I was going to ask if you see this as a long-term future for Axie and the play-to-earn model. I think you pretty much answered that there's no real reason to switch it back at this point. Okay. Any other final thoughts around that? It's a massive announcement. I know some people's feathers are ruffled, but it's just going to force you to become a...
The thing is, honest, like, people who own Axies, right? Like, when we think about whose interests we need to balance in the ecosystem, we have to balance the people who actually own Axies, own assets within the ecosystem, own Axis, right? So if, scholars, they don't, they're more, they feel uncomfortable trying PvP, then there's so many scholars on Twitter, right, everywhere, that would love a chance to join these scholarship programs. And so, yeah, like, it just means that they're not hungry enough, and, yeah, they can be replaced.
Yeah, absolutely. Very true. And I want to say one more thing about any scholar out there who's interested in gaming, who's making money playing this game. Guys, you were being capped. Your earning potential, if you have a brain and you're out there to learn and improve and become competitive, your earning potential was being capped because you were earning the flat rate of everyone else. Everyone was earning the same amount. But imagine you want to go as far as you can. You're not going to be, what the hell was everyone doing? You're not going to be losing games intentionally when you're out of energy to then play lower skill players you're going to be pushing yourself to become the best. There's how much money? $9,000 for first place this season? $9,000 for playing a game? That's pretty insane. So I'm just saying that for people to get excited, because you can actually earn more money if you put the time and the effort in via this route. And I think that's really, really cool, and will only improve everything, including scholarship programs. And okay,
I mean, this isn't a handout, right? Like, people
right.
need to work hard for the value that they get from the ecosystem. And yeah, for too long, it was kind of just like, okay, everyone can just earn the same amount by grinding adventure, right? You actually need, this is a game, right? You need skill. If you're only in it for the money as well, then this probably is not the ecosystem for you. This community was built and got here because of people who believe in a new type of game, a new type of technology. People were building for 3.5 years when there was no money in the ecosystem, and right. So I understand that, like, a lot of new people are in the ecosystem. They're really focused on, like, ROI and making money, but if you think like that, you're gonna be broke long term, right? My mom always told me, the more you think about making money, the less money you're gonna make. Just try and help people, try and add value, try to work hard. That's actually the path to making it. So I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Guys, there's going to be a bunch of shammy, scammy play-to-earn games that come out. That if that's your vibe, you can go there and you probably won't go too far. They won't stick around, that's for sure. So, as always, high quality stuff. And I want to say we can go ahead and talk about. Why don't we do this? What about? I think this is something a lot of people who are PvP heads want to know, including myself. How does balancing work here, Jiho, in the game? Who makes balancing changes? How does that get decided? And yeah, what's that? What is that? Because we all have our own thoughts around it.
Yeah, definitely. So we look at a lot of data. We have an internal team that looks a lot of the data that's produced. So it's really a voting mechanism, right? Players vote for what they think is too strong by using and spamming these combinations, right? So you can see, like, okay, what has, like, an unusually high win rate across, like, many different teams. And yeah, we also look at, like, some feedback. I think over time the game has definitely gotten more balanced. I think, like, right now, I would have liked to push a balancing update with this as well, but it would have been a lot to drop all at once. And our engineers they have a lot of work to do, right? Like scaling the server, etc. So
This is pretty hilarious. Yeah, that was obviously one of the only things I was disappointed with the announcements. Was I was really hoping we get changes for Season 18, but we'll have to all try to make do with the nonsense that's out there, including poisons and terminators, and I'm shouting this stuff out for you guys because it's not every day you get to talk with Jiho, and I'm going to try to make everyone's voice heard a little. But obviously, I'm sure he has also heard once or twice Terminators are insanely strong. Shrimpinator, which is the backdoor with poison. Grass Snake is absurd for a 0 cost, getting 2 poison charges. So let that... we're putting that out there, guys, and the team is aware of it. So everyone hang on tight. We got this season to get through. Try to go get a Biden's Axie so you can negate some poison. But yeah, that stuff is super strong. You see me complaining about it quite often. Jiho, what about your Axie skills, bro? Like, I know you actually do execute the balancing changes. When are we going to see Jiho back on the leaderboard, back in the top 10? I mean, I know you got there a while back. A while back, didn't you make the top of the leaderboard?
Yeah, I think, like, in the earlier seasons I used to play a lot. Yeah, I want to get back into it, I guess, a little bit. But my way of playing Axie is, everyone has a different way of playing Axie, right? Like, growing the ecosystem, right? That's kind of my way of playing. Axie is the larger, the most important, or like another aspect, I guess, of Axie, right, is Axie is a game that everyone plays together with the goal of growing the game to be as large as possible, right? Because if you own Axis token, you're an owner, you're a stakeholder of the ecosystem. So
Yeah, absolutely. I know I tweeted it out a while back, but playing these guys, think of it this way as far as the announcements today, right? When I say your earning potential's capped, right, people have probably missed out on AXS rewards by doing that stupid shit of having to lose games to win more SLP instead of going for it, going the distance to win Axis. I tweeted that in the 3 seasons I played, I made top 10. I earned, I think, 500, something around 500-ish Axis worth around 20K. Now, that's over the last few months. That's a hell of a lot more money than you're going to make dropping ranks to earn a little extra SLP. So the money is in the lifeblood. I know SLP is the lifeblood of the game, but Axis also is the appreciation on that is going to be different than that to SLP, as we've seen insane growth. And at $40, you have to think about how early we are in this. So if you're snagging AXS right now and you're holding it for the next couple years, you could have life-changing money there. So keep that in mind. And let's talk a bit about esports and what we see for the future there in terms of Axie Infinity. So when I got involved in the game, like you, I became committed immediately. I was up all night the first week, 4 or 5 in the morning playing the game. I was hooked. I'm a strategy game fanatic, so it caught me. And I saw that vision very quickly, that this had that potential, which is quite rare. Not every game rolls around and becomes something that people become really hooked on and obsessed with and want to become the top, and has the proper skill curve to make it interesting. So is that something that you guys really hold close in terms of the vision for the game, or is it something that you can kind of take or leave because mass adoption on the play to earn model and the game will be fun and probably even a little more fun and casual with some components of V2? So yeah, where do you see esports landing in terms of this whole entire ecosystem and community?
I mean, I think competitive play and democratizing it and making it accessible to people is really important. It's part of the culture. It's part of the fun within the Axie universe as well. Long term, Axie isn't just a game. It's a community. It's a nation. It's an entire digital economy. So I think like the game is a way to attract people and get them into the ecosystem. But yeah, there's so many other like kind of like roles within the ecosystem, right? Like you can be an Axie trader, you can be an Axie breeder, you can just hold access, right? You can play the game on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, right? That's also playing Axie. So yeah, but yeah, I think like esports and the competitive scene will be really important. That's why we brought Ziori on board. I think like we've been ramping up the competitive nature of the game as well over time. So yeah, this is definitely a priority for us.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the majority of players aren't going to be or trying to be Axie pros or have an esports future, but that just speaks to how amazing the game is, that there's all these other facets people can be involved in. Most people are here at least I believe most people are here because it's the best community in cryptocurrency, in my opinion. It's just so positive and so uplifting and offers so many benefits to people around the world. And that brings out the art in people, that brings out lost interests and hobbies and creative interests as well. So that's very special. Do you see any issues around growth happening too fast again? Do you see what happened where we had to shut everything down because growth was too quick? Is that something that is in your mind, and scaling issues on the horizon?
So scaling is always sometimes a bottleneck with new technologies, right? Even you saw with Tesla, for 2 years they couldn't ramp up production because they couldn't get enough lithium-ion batteries. So every new technology paradigm shift, it goes through like issues of scaling. So yeah, I mean, we're working on long-term solutions to allow the game server to accommodate tens of millions of players, hopefully hundreds of millions of players. Can I promise that there won't be snags along the way? Like, definitely not. It's possible. but just like last time, we'll figure it out. We'll get the train going again.
I mean, that was pretty fast, all things considered. Considering it's an alpha, we're not even in official release. I mean, what was it like? Was it 10 days, 7 days where we were out of commission? And then, I mean, we were maybe even less. I know we were getting spotty, we were having issues, but when we were fully out of commission, I think it was about a week, and then we were back up and running. Something like that.
Yeah, it was like around 10 days. Still need to be faster. We need to always get better. We need to improve. That goes for us, Sky Mavis. It goes for the community. We need to always be pushing ourselves. We need to take a long-term compounding look at this. We can improve 1% per day over years. We're gonna become unstoppable. End of story. That's how we need to think. Like, one of the issues about growth is not the server scaling. It's about people coming in with a short-term mindset because Axie is so popular, so hot now. Like, we need people with a long-term mindset. We need missionaries. We don't want mercenaries. Mercenaries, like, they're toxic. They can leave the ecosystem. Just because they're in the ecosystem doesn't mean that I want them in the ecosystem or we need them in the ecosystem. They can be replaced, and they should be replaced with people who have a long term. This is an exclusive club. This isn't like, this isn't, it's not, I don't know, it's not something that anyone should just allowed to be a part of. There is a certain culture, there are certain values that we uphold in this community.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's, as I mentioned in every video, Axie community is unlike any other. It's special. It's something we hold close. When I played Hearthstone for that really brief stint when the servers went down, I said, let me go see what's going on over here in Hearthstone. And it got legendary quickly. And I came across a guy who was making content, and he was pretty good at it. So I reached out to him and to kind of see if he'd be interested in Axie. And I immediately just sort of abandoned the idea. I was talking about seeing if he wants to do content with CTG, and then there was all these red flags, more or less, in terms of just maybe not being on the same wavelength of appreciation around decentralization, around what we're doing here. And that's really important for me. And it's important that anyone like I work with or bring in or coach or whatever shares that. And nothing against him. I just don't think it was it was a click, really. So yeah, I mean, show respect or leave the movement was the quote from the song, and it's really wonderful to hear that kind of stance from Jiho unapologetically, I think, as it should be. Amazing. So let's have a little fun here and talk about, in terms of the growth, right? Because there's many facets to it. There's daily active users, there's the content metrics, right? Twitch numbers are going through the roof. I mean, it's growing wildly across the board for sure. How about some fun speculative, I mean, speculative is a relative term, I guess. I mean, I was pretty locked in on it the moment I set my eyes on them, but how about mystics? So I don't remember the date, Jiho, but I believe it was definitely over a year ago. You said something, you tweeted something, because someone bought a Mystic for a couple grand, I think. And you were going, wow, this is incredible that people see the value and are willing to pay hundreds, even thousands of dollars for a Mystic, as if a few grand was like insane. Did that Jiho also envision a 30 Ethereum floor for Mystics? I'm assuming you did on some level, but like, what would he say? Like, if he was told that in a year and a half or whatever, we would be here.
I mean, that was always, I think, part of what I saw as a possibility. There's been so much wealth created in the community and the cryptocurrency space through these huge moves over the last couple of years. ETH used to be like $80. So yeah, it's kind of, I expected it. It's, in some ways pretty normal, but also, right, it's always cool to see when, things that you hoped would happen and thought could happen actually happen. So yeah, I mean, Mystics, that's like one of the most exclusive groups of people in the world. only like maybe 300 people own a Mystic Axie. So yeah, you're in good company if you have one of those. And there's the private channel in the Discord where talk about a lot of cool stuff. It's really good to get everyone's opinions there. So yeah, Axie is for different different types of people, and I think like yeah, a lot of the Mystic owners are huge leaders within the community, and yeah, if someone wants to come in and be a leader, right, like you can come in and get a Mystic, kind of use that as your standard or your mascot, and people will start to associate that Axie with you, and it shows that you're a long-term thinker, right? It's like the ultimate signal that you're in it for the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. It is that ultimate signal. And it's funny seeing people when Bryce come in, Dave come in, these really bright guys, these really talented individuals who it clicks right away. One of my first streams, or Bryce's first streams, I was on it as a guest, and he was losing his marbles over them, looking at all of them, and it is one of the most exclusive assets out there. And yeah, it's an honor to hold one. I'm really grateful that I got into the game when I did. Prices of everything are nuts now, but still tons of opportunity, of course. And it's another thing that I think a lot of people forget. This conversation has had through lines of talking about Jihoz past, which is over 3 years in the Axie realm. It's easy to look at everything with this narrow perspective coming in, and the hype and the blow up that's happening right now, right? And fair credit to it. I mean, they built something really special, but imagine coming into a Discord where there's like a handful of people and the chat moves like 1 page per day, right? There's no activity because they're just starting from the ground floor. This has been around for that amount of time. And so to be here now, it just needs to be seen in that perspective, in my opinion. This isn't like an overnight success. This has been built in the trenches. So anyway, let's talk about sustainability in the economy. I think a lot of people have some concerns around that. That's not my forte, I'll admit it. But what are your thoughts around that in terms of balancing, keeping things in order? Like, it's hard to do. I mean, because you set a certain thing in place, and then the market crypto is so unpredictable, right? And then AXS goes to $40, and now it's 4 axis for every breed. It's not stopping people from breeding because it's still profitable, but it definitely mixes some things up. And then we had the SLP issues you talked about earlier. So how do you guys approach that on a day-to-day? Is it stressful? What are your long-term plans for that?
Yeah, this is a question that we get a lot, right? To be honest, it's not stressful. We've been doing this for almost 4 years now. People have always said, oh, like the Axie economy is gonna crash, right? People were predicting that when we hit 10,000. They were like, there's 10,000 Axies. There's way too many Axies, right? There's 10,000 Axies and there's only 500 players. Like, this is out of control, right? Like, so yeah, people, they always say that the sky is falling, but the Axie community, we just keep pushing, right? Like, I can talk about all the mechanisms, right? Like increasing the SLP per breed, decreasing the AXS per breed, just adjusting those, right? Like dropping less, dropping more rewards, adding new game modes, adding burn mechanisms. Yes, like, this is all in the white paper. It's all standard stuff that everyone should be aware of. We have many different levers and, basically plans and solutions to economic balancing, but at the end of the day, Axie is going to thrive and do well if we continue to attract amazing people to our community. If our community continues to be the best community in the world, it's all about the social capital. Axie is an exclusive club, and people want to be part of that club because we have an amazing culture, we have an amazing vision, and we're doing something that's never been done before, and people want to be a part of it. So yeah, the people who don't want to be a part of it, you might be in the Axie community, but like there are a lot of people who want to join and take your spot. So yeah, I think this is another way of looking at it, right? Is Axie is a movement. This movement, I believe, is unstoppable because we have so many long-term thinkers, and yeah, that the social capital is actually the thing that backs the economy. It's the connections, it's the people. That's what actually gives the Axie digital nation value. So yeah, I think the social capital, the community, that's our number one asset, and it attracts new amazing minds. So yeah, I've talked a lot about like the mechanisms and the syncs. Like I want to talk about it from a more of a, I don't know, from a more abstract angle.
Well,
Something.
I love that you're speaking my language, Jiho, because I don't know a damn thing about tokenomics or SLP this or that or whatever. That's not why I got involved, right? I got involved for all the reasons you just said. That's why most people get involved, okay? So if you want to be a chart nerd, go do that somewhere else. They've figured it out. They've been figuring it out this whole time pretty damn seamlessly to get to this point. So I'm glad he's in here talking his talk, because there's some people that need to hear this and you know, take it for what it is. I mean, I don't know what more you could want from a core team in terms of how they approach this thing, right? And the longer you stick around, I feel like the more it clicks. And it's reasonable for people to have skepticism at first. They should. Everyone should be skeptical. But you also have to look at kind of what he just said in terms of the bright lights that are in here and how prevalent and how abundant they are. That's not something that you stumble across every day. So I'm sorry if sometimes you say something and then I just repeat it with my own feelings. But I mean, I definitely, you know, I share the passion. This has become my life. I didn't foresee that happening. But I again, super grateful, and super grateful that I didn't say, at the time it was like $220 for a decent Axie team in January. Really glad that I didn't say, screw that, like this isn't worth it. I think I always had a dream of an amazing crypto game, and just maybe it was a dream I didn't even realize I had, but I loved crypto for 3 years. So when Axie came around, it was kind of like this perfect storm. Exclusive club, social capital, that is the most valuable asset in Axie Infinity. And that's really all you need to know. The ins and outs will be sorted as they have been. So I think that leads me to, I was going to talk about land a bit, but it's kind of the same as the Mystics. It's all just going ham because people are catching on to what's happening here. So Arctic floor, yeah, it's everything's down a little bit from where it was, but I mean, we just were touching like 10 ETH not long ago. It's 8.8, and then a big jump up from there to 9.6 across the board. So I guess you want to talk and say anything about land and the perspective that brings to the game, the new dimension it brings, because we're already on this fast track of mass adoption with a very competitive and complex card game that takes a few days to wrap your head around. I'm not saying land won't be complex, but anything you want to say about that in terms of user base and what it could do and what it could bring?
I think people are really excited for land. I think they should be excited for land. The idea, right, is to build something that smashes together the best parts of games we grew up playing, like Clash of Clans, Animal Crossing, maybe even like something like Age of Empires, right? And but then adding this, right, amazing, beautiful IP, the Axie IP, on top of it, and then adding crypto economics, right? So imagine you're farming resources, and you know they're actually tokens. So yeah, I think land will open up the eyes of many people who are skeptical of Axie and doubters and haters. So yeah, you know, we have to welcome them with open arms into the community. Yeah, it's going to be a long road building out land. You know, we'll get something kind of playable out there hopefully next year, or maybe hopefully early next year, and then kind of iterate from there. That's what we always do. Our approach is we release something and we make it better with the community over time until it, right? Like we launched the current battle system in 2019 in December. And for like 6 months or something, it wasn't really growing. But we were just making it better with community feedback, and right, eventually started to take off. So I think that's a cool thing about NFT games too, is like building alongside the community, iterating. It's not like, it's different from a traditional game where, right, like you build up all this hype for one big launch, and then you launch, and then you know whether it's going to be a success or a failure immediately, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, also it's like kind of, Yeah, traditional games, like, you can add new content, but NFT games, you add new mechanisms, if that makes
Mm.
sense, right? So it's always mechanisms can cause viral growth. Content, kind of, it's more like it can engage people, if that makes sense. It's not really the same thing as mechanism design. So
Yeah, great point. Great point. But to me, I think that's what makes it interesting, and that's where I lose so much interest in centralized games. Is it doesn't for I mean for all the reasons I'm into decentralization, but it doesn't feel like you have a holistic place in it. And that's even here with little bumps in the road, you're part of something that's so authentic, right? And that's really special. So we just crossed 2,500 viewers, guys. The first 15 minutes, I mean, this would have ended up on my channel anyway, so like it wasn't a big deal that it was unlisted, but it was unlisted the first 15 minutes. This will be posted to my channel the moment that it's over, so if you want to go back, watch that. Basically just ask Jiho about his background a little bit and how he feels about the state of the game and the growth, the massive growth that has happened recently. But it'll be there for you. Really grateful to everyone else who has showed up until this point. 2,500 is nothing to scoff at. I think there is a lot of really big PvP announcements that happened, a lot of things we need to discuss, but we've also talked about Jiho coming on regularly once a month, maybe something like that, to briefly discuss the state of the game and PvP and getting maybe even into more PvP details, even in terms of meta and fun stuff like that in the future. Something to keep an eye on. In short, Jiho, what do you think? Why do people, in your own words, why do people want to contribute to Axie the way that they do? It's almost not normal. Like, people don't really want to just go out and do stuff so fanatically with passion like that without expecting anything in return. And yeah, maybe some people wish, I want to be a content creator, I want to do good and be successful there. But even without that, the artists, the people who just contribute and just want to give back and create positivity, what is it that you think fundamentally drives that?
ownership. So Axie is the first large game of all time that's owned by its user base. So Sky Mavis, we have an interest to grow the economy, so does the community, right? So we both want the same thing, we both want the same goals. Every single person, they ask themselves, how can I help? When I wake up, like, how can I help Axie today? That thought process goes through the minds of thousands of our citizens. So yeah, being an Axie community member is a responsibility. You are a member. You are an incredibly lucky person to be one of the first million people on this earth to own Axies and to be a part of this movement. So I think people understand that it's more than a game. It's not just about fun. It's about creating a new type of society, this new digital nation. And yeah, so yeah, I think people really get it, and they might not really totally even understand it at first. But what we're doing is we're giving people economic freedom. When you give people freedom, unexpected and amazing heroic behaviors emerge. So.
Facts. I get chills thinking about Axie. I mean, guys, thank you so much for being here. As Jiho said, to be part of the first million is really a special place in time right now. And I'll ask you this. So our first convo, I said, what do you think is going to happen? You said 250K by end of year. What about end of year 2022?
It's hard to project right now. We just hit 1.1 million today.
Jesus Christ, 1.1.
Yeah, I think if we can hit 2 million by the end of the year, we'll be in a good spot.
Yeah.
I think we might hit 4 or 5.
Jesus Christ. I like the modest prediction followed by the let me tell you what I think could actually happen.
Typical, right? It's like you make a conservative, a base, and an optimistic projection. So it's like, I think conservative might be like 2. Yeah, middle is maybe like 4, optimistic, like 10 mil.
Let's go. So guys, I think also someone had said that you said something like, imagine there's 10 million players, right? This was to motivate content creators, which if you're sleeping on that and you're passionate about this game, don't delay. Get started right now. I think that was like, you're early. You're super early. So to get your foot in the door, whether it's Twitch or YouTube, and start making quality content before there's 10 million people, I think you said how feasible it is to imagine having a million subscribers, right? Basically at this growth rate, if we end up hitting 10 mil. So guys, like, that opportunity is not only there, but it's one of the most fulfilling things you can do to help other people grow as people, as competitors, as free thinkers. So let this be a bit of a pep rally to go out and create that channel and post your first video, and don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry about it being the ultimate Axie video. Just get started, okay? All right. Whew, man, I had some Jiho. I'm not gonna lie. I had some nerves at the beginning of this thing. I really did. But you kept it super grounded and cool. It helped me keep my cool as well. So thank you.
No problem. Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So I think that's going to cover it this time around. Guys, if you missed the first 15 minutes or any of this at all, if you're just tuning in, at the very end, we're wrapping things up, but this will be posted on my channel right away. You go back, watch the whole thing. Some really a lot of gems in here, and I really appreciate the candor of Jiho on this one, and kind of laying down the law, saying it how it is, but also being extremely encouraging and real about what is being built here. So thank you so much, Jiho. Appreciate you being on the show, and look forward to having you in the future as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it was great to be here. You're killing it. You know, keep grinding. Yeah, I'm proud of you. So.
Thanks, man. That means a lot coming from you. Appreciate that. All right, we're signing off. See you in the next one. Peace.